It's day one of the Craven meeting at Newmarket as the flat season really kicks into gear. There's also a cracking card at Cheltenham today, and joining us in the studio later will be the Weekenders, Ed Quigley with his best bets. First joining me on the phone is our Newmarket correspondent David Mills. David, let's start with the Nell Gwyn Stakes first. Which of the Newmarket horses have been really catching your eye on the gallops?
Well, Ed Walker's filly Sound of Guns has done plenty of work. Question mark over getting the 7 furlongs as she's campaigned over 6 and 5 last year is an issue. The ground's drying out quite nicely here, so I don't think it'd be much of a stamina test unless it rains again. They're quite hopeful that she should run well and she'd have a good each-way chance.
And what do you make of Luca Kamani's contender, Nargis?
Again, she'd be in the mix. Luca's horses are just coming through. Not really had her own grasses yet this year. They would be looking more towards perhaps Royal Ascot with her, so she would have an each-way chance tomorrow.
And do you think any of them will be good enough to beat the favourite Sky Lantern?
Looking at her level of form last year, I think we are a little bit behind, and Hannon's are just running into form. So, yeah, I think she'd be hard to beat.
But it is Sky Lantern and Richard Hughes who are going to win by 3 lengths. Shiltalala, Harris C, and they're followed in by...
And you said it's been the worst winter you can remember at Newmarket. How forward are the horses compared to usual?
Well, I think some have been holding on to them more than usual because at one time a couple of weeks ago it just showed no sign of relenting. I would thought Henry Cecil's are quite well forward. He's going to be his first runs tomorrow. Yeah, we're playing catch up, but I mean Lambourne and such have been slightly in the same boat, so hopefully we can get on the board.
And finally, David, what's today's nap?
George Margerson is running a very interesting horse in the first race at Newmarket, Jammy Guest. It's very well named as it's by Duke of Marmalade. He has got the classic entries, as it happens. I wouldn't expect him. He'd have to win this handsomely to run there. He doesn't look the greatest renewal, and he has been working very, very nicely. And hopefully, he can get us on the board in the first race.
So as I mentioned before, the flat season's really heating up now, and joining me in the studio with his best bets is Weekenders, Ed Quigley. Ed, it's really kicking off now, isn't it, with the Craven meeting?
Yeah, indeed. The flat season's starting to get underway. It's, you know, almost like the traditional curtain raiser, if you like, for many people. The headquarters are flat, and yeah, indeed, yeah, it's a good race to look forward to. Yeah,
and you've got a tip for us there in the 3:30, and it's Birdman you like in the listed race, 7 furlong handicap. Simcox said he's been going well at home. Yeah,
it's one of those, basically, to start the flat season at Newmarket, I thought I wanted to fire in a nice long shot early doors. Round 12 to 1 he's been putting in that. And as you say, David Simcox says Birdman's been working well at home. He's been gelded. And it's just one of those, I look through the contest overall, there's no great superstars being a listed handicap. And this horse was really, well, he was highly tried. This is his first time outside of Group 1 or 2 company since, well, many moons ago, basically. He's been in it all the top contests, taken all the best. And some of his form really stacks up. I mean, he was beaten only ahead by Olympic Glory in the Superlative Stakes, and on 2 or 3 other occasions he really laid it down to some far more glamorous rivals. But he's here running off 105, and it was also noticeable last year that, okay, you could argue he had easier contests to start with and then it got tougher, but his best form did come early in the season when he was fresh, and he may just be a horse who, you know, leaves his race behind, and first time out is the time to catch him. He's 12 to 1, as I said, in what to me looks a fairly wide open race. And so, yeah, I think more rain would help. I've seen there's mixed forecasts. If rain does hit the track, that would enhance his claims. But I think 12 to 1, he's susceptible to an up-and-coming superstar. But as I said, I don't think there are any in here, and he'll run his race, and I think he'll be there or thereabouts. And 12 to 1's a fair price to reflect that.
Richard Hannon's been flying already this season, and he's got ML in there at the bottom of the weights.
Yeah, that's the dangerous one, the one that you look like the potential improver. But as I said, I'm not sure he's any great shakes, and there's a few of these I find quite uninspiring, really. And so look, I just think it's maybe the time to catch Birdman, and you're catching him at a price. So I'm going to go with him.
All right, so that is Birdman then to win the 3:30 at Newmarket. And it's Cheltenham today as well, so I knew you'd have a few tips there for us. But you fancy Champion Court in the Grade 2, one of your favourite ever racehorses, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, you've got to try and take sentiment out of tipping, otherwise you just do end up on the long road to the poorhouse. But just be totally objective and looking at this race. If Champion Court does not win this race, I'm struggling to find out when he will win a race. I mean, he's run some absolute blinders the last couple of years without necessarily getting his head in front. Of course, he was second to Sir de Champs. He led the King George field into the home straight, finishing 4th in desperate ground. And then he didn't run a great race in the Ryanair chase, even by his own trainers admitted, basically. He finished 5th. And what was alarming was the way normally when push comes to shove, he really battles. But the light kind of went out up the Cheltenham Hill, which it never normally does over 2.5 rim round there. And the trainer said, by his own admission, look, the King George took a lot off him. Then he had a prep run. We perhaps done a little bit too much with him. Now, they missed Aintree deliberately to keep him fresh for this. So as the likes of Manor and Humpball have obviously had, other tough races since. So this question of, I think he should be fresh if he's tuned for the minute, purely on a handicap basis. He's officially rated 155. He's got Ian Popham claiming 3. So in theory, he's running off 152, which puts him on 10 stone 7. I just think if Champion Court's anywhere near his best, over 2.5 miles of good soft ground, he cannot run to less than 152. See what I'm saying? I mean, he's getting weight from Big Fella Thanks. And I'll say to you before we came on air, what price would Big Fella Thanks have been in the Ryanair chase last month? We'd have been 33 to 1, and Champion Court was going off, single figures. So, look, everything's in place for him to run a big race. If the old fire is still there and the early season hasn't taken its toll, then he's a huge player. We haven't got any prices, but he's going to be in around 2nd, 3rd favourite. He's going to be at a decent price because Manor and Humpball are going to make the market for him, if you like. So,
what about Carrick Boy? He was the 50 to 1 winner at Cheltenham, out of the handicap though.
Indeed, and you just look by his form figures, P61, P1. I don't know what's going to turn up. I'm not sure Venetia Williams knows what's going to turn up.
So inconsistent.
So inconsistent, and bolts up, 50 to 1 at the Cheltenham Festival. Look, he's the kind of horse you want to be backing at 50 to 1. In this, you won't be getting anywhere near that, so I couldn't have him. And Gazeo is another interesting one. We must talk about him because obviously Paul Nicholls, Ruby Walsh, got to be respected. Yeah. And he's only on 10 stone 10. He's got smart form round here, but all seems to be found wanting. So it's all roads to Champion Court. If he's beating in 5th here, then I'll just have to put a line for him. But I'll
have to give up on him.
I really think he'll run an absolute stormer.
All right, so thank you for that, Ed. And that's Champion Court then to win the 3:55 at Cheltenham. Up next, we're going to hear from Ben Hutton. Joining me on the phone now is Ben Hutton of the Betting Desk, looking ahead to this weekend's Scottish National. Ben, you've been in cracking form of late. You put Aurora's Encore up for the Grand National at 66 to 1. Can he emulate Red Rum and win this as well?
It's not completely out of the question, and 12 to 1 isn't the worst price. He's £11 higher than he was at Aintree, but he won by 9 lengths. 12 months ago, when he was an agonising second in this, he was only £5 lower, so it's certainly not out of the question. The worry is about him having a hard race. But he's about his best at this time of year, and I think others, I favour others slightly because they'll be better handicapped, I think, but I could see him going very close.
So who would you be favouring at this stage?
Well, the one I'd be most keen to back would be Bradley. He does seem to handle most types of ground, but I think he's probably better on good, the soft or faster, so confidence would increase if it dries out later in the week. I know Friday and Saturday the forecast's good, so hopefully the ground will be in his favour. Everything he does shapes like he'll be well suited by 4 miles. He was second to Monbeg Dude in November at Cheltenham. Off this mark, that one went on to win the Welsh Grand National, so he's obviously well handicapped, and like I say, this 4 mile trip should bring out the very best of him. Didn't jump very well last time, but if we can forgive him that, 20 to 1's way too big, I think.
And you also have another fancy around the 16 to 1 mark each way.
Well, yeah, I think Nuts and Bolts is possibly slightly shorter at 16s. That would, if the ground was soft, I think I'd still back Bradley, but wouldn't have as much on, and I'd have a little bit on Nuts and Bolts. Very good record at Ayr, 3 from 4 at Ayr. when he was 6th in the JLT specialty at Cheltenham over 3 miles and a little bit. Stayed on really well that day, so I think the step up to 4 miles could suit him. Thoroughly unexposed, and a nice little bet at 16 to 1, I think he'd be.
And Rival Destravel's favourite for the race. He was going really well in the 4 miler at Cheltenham before falling. Is it the 4 that's put you off him?
No, not really. It's the price. I think he's the likeliest winner. He doesn't have many holes in him. I think he's also won at Ayr. Oh, no, he's certainly run well at Ayr. Sorry, at last year's meeting. Seems to handle a variety of ground. Trip should be fine. It's just 6 to 1 seems skinny. I can see. Well, he might be a shade shorter come Saturday, but there's certainly no value in that price now.
Always Right and God's Me Judge are also well fancied in the market. Will they be up there in the finish?
Yeah, I think I can see Always Right running well. What is he? He's £3 higher than when he was second 2 years ago, and he looked as good as ever when winning at Kelso last time. The problem is with him, he's 9 to 1, and I don't think there's any scope for him to be ahead of the handicapper. I think all the horses we've mentioned so far, they could be a bit better than the current mark, whereas Always Right, he could go close, but I just don't think he's going to be that well handicapped. God's Me Judge, yeah. Hunt mark of 139. When you compare that to Rival Destravel with a mark of 143, it's obvious which one I'd prefer. Rival Destravel, I think, is more than £4 superior to God's Me Judge, so for that reason, that's why I wouldn't be backing God's Me Judge at 10 to 1.
And finally, Ben, a quick word on a few of the others. Quentin Collonge?
Might not stay, so 12 to 1 is short enough.
Mick?
Very tempting, but again, there's this slight stamina issue, so I'd favour others who are at bigger prices, who are showing more signals that they're going to relish this 4 mile trip.
Big occasion?
Possibly that the really heavy ground helped him when he won at Uttoxeter, but he hasn't gone up that much for that win, so I wouldn't put anyone off backing him.
Neptune Equester?
Again, tempting. He's got the ability to win this. He's won big staying handicap chases before, running well over hurdles. It's just recent chase forms, not particularly inspiring.
And finally, Ben, Monsieur Cadeau?
Again, he's progressed this season. He's not a negative. But he's just sort of rising up the handicap, and he's up £12 for his latest one. And I just think others have got improvement to come. We might have seen all the improvement we are going to see from him.
So thanks for watching. Here are all the selections up on the screen now. I hope you enjoyed today's racing, and good luck with your bets.